Miami's Carson Beck was the most polarizing quarterback in the country during the preseason. One of his biggest critics has just had to admit he was wrong.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes radio network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this loaded episode, we'll talk about the updated ACC Conference Championship odds, where Miami sits and where some of their top conference rivals sit. Tommy Castellanos, after losing 2 straight games, is still talking, still the greatest thing since sliced bread. We'll get to that. But we'll talk about Miami's quarterback, who is off to a tremendous start. In fact, as we mentioned yesterday, Carson Beck is currently tied atop the odds for the Heisman Trophy. He and Oregon's Dante Moore at plus 600 are the betting favorites right now. Folks, it's a Tuesday, and that means the man is back, the truth teller. And truth teller, you believed in Carson Beck before the season started. You were someone who was not downplaying him like a lot of the national pundits were.
Well, I said, and I remember saying this in January, February, and March, even though he wasn't at spring practice, as long as his injury is healed properly, I wasn't worried in the least. The guy's great. He was great 2 years ago at Georgia. He didn't have a good year last year. Why? Because he didn't have any help. He's got help now. He didn't have any help. Those drives, they dropped balls all over the place. The running game was bad, and the offensive line wasn't so good. So how do you blame it all on him? It's just, this is not at Miami now. It's not all about Beck. He's got help. Look at the receivers. Look at the plays they're making. Look at the offensive line, the running game. And the only reason there's any problems is sometimes the play calling gets too damn conservative. But yeah, so tell us who the big critic is. The guy with the big mouth. And I know him because his dad was my doctor. But you can
former Florida State quarterback Danny Cannell. And I actually listen, Miami fans are rightfully so dunking on Danny these last couple of days. But just for the record, I like Cannell. I enjoy his personality. I enjoy his breakdowns. Now, I would be a hypocrite to criticize him for this because given he's a Florida State guy, sometimes he can't take his FSU bias out of it when he's talking Miami. But listen, when I'm talking Florida State on Locked On ACC, sometimes I can't take my Miami bias out of it. So I can't criticize him for that. But you can be critical of what he said about Carson Beck preseason. So there was an appearance he made. He's the co-host of the very popular Cover 3 college football podcast. And they were giving their preseason hot takes. And his preseason hot take was that Miami was going to start off 2-3 this year, and that they were more likely to miss a bowl game than they were to win the ACC. Obviously, winning the ACC has not happened yet, but to have Miami 2-3 to start the year and missing a bowl game is looking way off. And he said a big reason for that was Carson Beck, not believing in Beck's leadership, not believing in him coming off the surgery. He mentioned that, Beck is not going to have the sort of talent around him at Miami that he had at Georgia. So, Bruce, before I let you react to all that, let me give you Danny Cannell's mea culpa that he put out on social media.
One quick question, though. What did he say about the Seminoles coming off their 2-win season? What was he predicting for them? Do you know?
I can't remember. I think I don't think he had them winning the ACC or anything like that, but I think he had them having a better season than Miami. I think he had them going to a bowl game, which could very well happen for them. They're 3-2. They'll probably end up in a bowl game. All right. So here's what Cannell, and listen, I give him credit for stepping up and admitting he was wrong because not everybody's doing that. A lot of the people who criticized and, really just slandered Carson Beck before the season have not stepped up to correct it. Danny Cannell said yesterday, in the offseason, I had my doubts about Carson Beck at Miami. Major surgery, leadership concerns, learning new system, turnover issues. I was wrong. He's been outstanding in all capital letters for the Canes. And by the way, he was wrong about every one of those factors that he listed,
Right,
including the leadership, including the injury, including the players around him. Because Bruce, as we talked about yesterday, CJ Daniels and Malachi Toney, not only are they way better than what Beck had at Georgia last year, leading the nation in drops, but CJ and Malachi have been better than any two receivers on Miami's roster last year.
Yep. Yes, they have been. They've been spectacular. They're making plays. They're making incredible catches, especially CJ. And there's no fear in those guys, And in Florida State had a million opportunities to make tackles. CJ ran through a bunch of guys. Malachi caught that pass in the middle of the field and juked 2 or 3 guys right out of their jock straps and into the end zone with 3 guys chasing him, and they still couldn't catch him. So, yeah, their offense is good. I don't want to talk about Danny the whole show, but
no.
at least he recognized. Now, whether he did this to make himself look better in the public eye instead of complaining and whining all the time, but Florida State got their rear ends handed to them, and I saw a bunch of those FSU podcasts, and a lot of those guys were ripping their coach to pieces about lack of quality recruiting. They're smaller than Miami. They're good, but they're very worried they could still lose a bunch of games this year. And meanwhile, as you said, Castellanos is still he's like a set of teeth. They go like this. There's nobody there, but the teeth are going, It's what he's doing.
Well, the other one, like I've noticed, Bruce, that nobody on Florida State, because we already had this conversation, you and me, and it might have even been off air. We talked about it about Mike Norvell, where in his whole post-game presser didn't say one positive thing about Miami.
Not one.
All Florida State. Their defensive coordinator, Tony White, he was basically like bragging after the loss that we knew everything Miami was going to run, he said.
Of course they did. They knew the play was coming.
Yeah. Well, and who had a great line? I think it was D Money of Kane's Insight, who commenting on Tony White. Oh, we knew everything Miami was going to run. That's like the captain of the Titanic bragging that he saw the iceberg before they hit it, was basically what that was.
I don't know if that would have been bragging because they didn't stop.
Right. Exactly. No, we knew everything. We were so prepared. We knew everything they were going to run.
Look, we know that there's a lot of fans that are delusional. I still remember seeing stuff during this past spring, how we stole Cam Ward from them. Cam Ward was never going to Florida State. Never. No. Never. It was either us or the NFL. And they're still babbling about this stuff, and they're wrong. So I don't really care. We beat them already. Enough is enough with them. But I will say this, without mentioning names, as I mentioned it yesterday, and we talked about it, and it's talked about a lot, the collapse in the fourth quarter. Well, a former star Kane from the first national championship team, who I will not mention his name, ripped Mario. And I got to tell you, a lot of former players, again, I won't mention names, I know who all of them are, jumped down his throat because they have these texts and stuff. Which I'm not in it, but I get all the info. That's bad. And so they ran and they defended Mario, these guys. You have to defend them. And I know that they practiced yesterday, they're practicing today, and they are working on what's going to happen if they get leads. They can't keep doing this. Both sides of the ball. The defense was soft.
Yeah.
They didn't gang tackle. They lost gap integrity on a lot of plays, and he's not happy.
It looked like we started playing with our food in the fourth quarter. But
yeah,
I get a little annoyed though when people like simplify it and they're like, oh, it was all on the play calling. And I know you're not saying that because I look at all those personal foul penalties on defense. Miami gave up 188 yards defensively. The offense didn't do that. The defense did that. And the offense, to their part, only produced 17 yards of offense.
Yes.
It wasn't all because they were running the ball. I mean, Carson Beck tried to hit Keelan Marion on a 3rd and 7, and he missed him. He missed the throw. That would have effectively ended the game.
Right.
Miami also had a holding penalty on one of their fourth quarter drives that basically derailed the drive. And listen, we can say they could have tried that field goal on that late fourth down, but the play was also there to get a first down and a touchdown, and the execution was off. And listen, when you're talking about conservative play calling, Bruce, I would much rather win a game where you get conservative and give the other team a little bit of an opportunity than lose a game because you're throwing the football and you're aggressive and you're not stopping the clock and incomplete passes, which is what happened at Syracuse last year. So I would rather have a conversation where I'm critiquing a victory than a conversation where I'm like, man, we were so aggressive in that fourth quarter. We lost the game, but at least we were aggressive.
Right. But the first 3 quarters of the game, we were incredible on both sides of the ball. And in the last 12 minutes, we were horrible on both sides of the ball, which shouldn't happen with a team like this.
Give Florida State some credit because Florida State actually started executing in the fourth quarter. It was too late by then, but they started to hit plays in the fourth quarter they weren't hitting in the first 3.
Yeah, but they shouldn't score 3 touchdowns like in 10 or 11 minutes. They shouldn't. But we gave them the ball. They had a million fourth downs, 4th and 5, whatever.
Yeah.
Again, we won. We did kick their ass. I don't care what they say. But now we have another game, Louisville, and every game is a winnable or losable game. It just is.
Sure.
Because it's the ACC, and we have a target. We can't do this. We can't play 3 quarters of a game, and you know that the coaches are thinking about that.
Sure.
So, look, I'm thrilled. We're 5-0. We are undefeated in the ACC. Last year we lost. Maybe the last 2 years we lost our first ACC game. I know Georgia Tech 2 years ago was a loss.
Yeah, it wasn't our first day. The 2 prior years we lost our first.
Yeah, right, we did. Anyway, I'm thrilled. Let's just go. Let's move on to.
Well, I want to move on to a couple of Tommy Castellanos quotes. Something more on Carson Beck, plus a look at our upcoming schedule, Bruce, because I got a question about that from a Locked On Canes insider. The 7 games Miami still has left. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode, folks. We're only getting started with PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, Tua Tagovailoa's passing yards if you want, and you're in the game. Guys, what I love about PrizePicks is you can make your lineup in under a minute. My favorite part, PrizePicks just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. And the new injury reboot feature, if a player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, make sure to check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and I talked about a busy weekend around the Atlantic Coast Conference, available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. We're joined here by the truth teller, Bruce Warner. All right, so Bruce, so far this year, talking about Carson Beck, Danny Cannell had to admit he was wrong about Carson preseason. Greg McElroy, who I don't think ever doubted Carson Beck, but he said on his show, Carson Beck is playing out of his mind right now. And Beck, so far this season, Bruce, is completing 73.4% of his passes. He's got 1,213 passing yards, 12 total touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. And in 3 of his 5 games so far, he has been turnover free. Had the 2 INTs in the South Florida game, had 1 INT against the Gators, but Notre Dame game, turnover free. Florida State game, turnover free, which was huge. And, Bethune-Cookman, for what that one's worth as well, was turnover free.
Well, it's worth something. It's called a game, so.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, we got a lot of great comments after yesterday's show. I'm proud of that. I want to thank you guys, man. We got a lot.
It was a fun show. It was a fun show yesterday. I hope my guy Brian Smith on Locked On Seminoles is doing okay, because it's been a tough little run for him.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of his shows. I was thinking of Brian, thinking of texting him, say, "Are you still alive?"
Like, send him a wellness check. Like, "Hey, buddy, are you okay?" Like,
hey, look, it's easy to smile now, but it's still one game at a time. We're
Listen,
still
man,
1-0, baby.
hold on, but if you talk to Florida State's starting quarterback, they may have lost 2 games, but nobody has stopped them, Bruce, is what Tommy Castellano said.
They
He
stopped
said after the
themselves.
Miami game, I don't think no one has beat us yet. We are beating ourselves, is what Castellano said. So, Bruce, like, hang the banner in Tallahassee, because even though they're 3-2, they're really 5-0. They're really unconquered, which is what they said after that 13-1 season where they got beaten by 60 in the bowl game. They were they made rings. They were unconquered that year. So hang the banner. And this is the same Thomas Castellanos that preseason said that he has no weaknesses, is what he said about himself at quarterback. He literally said that preseason, but also the same guy, Bruce, who when he hit some adversity at Boston College last year and Bill O'Brien decided to bench him, he was no longer the starting quarterback. Do you remember how he responded to that adversity?
No, what did he do? He pouted and walked away?
He quit the team.
Right, he quit the team. Right.
He got benched. He quit. And that was 8 games.
What year is he in now? Is he a senior?
I think he's a senior, yeah.
Well, let's talk about his no weaknesses when it comes draft time, when he doesn't get picked. Because he's not a draftable quarterback, that's for sure.
No, he's not.
He's not an athlete. He could be a returner. He could be a wide receiver, a slot guy. But a quarterback in the NFL, never going to happen, mister. I have no imperfections. Yeah. No weakness.
And maybe throwing under pressure might be a weakness, because in his 2 losses this year, Castellanos under pressure has completed just 46% of his passes, and he's thrown for 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in those situations. So maybe there is a weakness, buddy.
Well, you know what? There was a lot of receivers open this game that he did not hit. He threw it over their heads. He threw it into the dirt. He threw it out of bounds. So he's dangerous, but to a fault.
Yeah.
Because he could hurt his own team, and he hurt his own team. Had he been more accurate, they would have come back and won, or maybe they wouldn't have been so far behind. But when you're down 28-3 in the fourth quarter, you're not doing your job, pal. That's for sure. But it's not all on him. It is. You can't blame it all on him.
No. I mean, and listen,
they're not that good.
You referenced it earlier. I mean, Miami has better athletes. They have bigger, stronger players than Florida State, which is one of the reasons why FSU fans are starting to turn on Mike Norvell a little bit. How come you haven't recruited better, for the past 4 years? How come we don't have the physicality to match up with a team like Miami? Josh Pate mentioned the other day that Miami's got a team full of creatures, and then Ohio State fans were very upset about that because he said no one else in the country looks like Miami. And like Pate said it, Bruce, like he didn't guarantee Miami wins anything this year. Like he's not guaranteeing they win the conference, not guaranteeing they win the national championship. He's just saying that the roster looks different. But would you like to hear the updated odds for the ACC Championship this year? Not just Miami, but all 17 teams. Would you like to hear that?
Sure. What happens if I say no? You're going to show it anyway. So, yes.
Yeah, you've learned. You've learned. You might as well say yes. All right. So
somebody commented yesterday they thought I retired. I did. I retired for like a week or two because there was things that were going on in my life.
You're like Brett Favre. You retire, but you come out of retirement.
But that was only once. He did that several times.
Yeah, he did it like 4 or 5 times. Yeah. All right. So the updated, these were shared by David Hale of ESPN. These are per ESPN. The odds to win the conference. Miami leads the way at 55.4% right now to win the ACC.
That's all?
Well, you know what? I'm okay with that because, I mean, last year at some point, Miami was probably in the 70s or 80s, and then we lost to Georgia Tech. We lost to Syracuse. We didn't get to the championship game, so I'm okay at 55.4%. But I think, Bruce, the next few are very interesting because who would you guess has the second best odds to win the ACC behind Miami? Who do you think?
Based on, I haven't looked at all the teams, but based on their schedule, I think Georgia Tech, because they don't play anybody. They don't play us, Clemson, or Florida State. So who's left?
I would have thought so too. They actually have Duke next on the list at 18%. So Duke has a head-to-head in a couple weeks with Georgia Tech. So they must be thinking Duke is going to win that game, I guess. So Duke at 18%, then Virginia at 15.4%, then Georgia Tech at 5.7%,
wow.
SMU, who Miami's going to face in a few weeks at 3.4%. Louisville, who just lost a conference game, we see them in a week and a half. They have just
Virginia. They lost,
right. They just lost, so they're only at 1.3%. Florida State 0.5%. Pittsburgh 0.2%, and Clemson 0.1%, Bruce, which is crazy because before the season started, people had Clemson at like 95% to win the ACC.
Yeah, they were the odds-on favorite, and I was worried about them too. And the other thing I thought was that Klubnik was going to be great. He's inconsistent at best. He's not that great. He's okay. But anyway, who's texting me here? I don't know. Somebody's texting.
Not that important then. So somebody angry about Mario?
No, I don't know if it's a client or what the hell it is. Anyway, don't worry about it.
No worries.
So we play Louisville, and then we play Stanford here. That's the 25th. I hope that's a day game because my wife's band is performing in Aventura that night. So I've got to go to that. Yeah. Then we're on the road. Then we go to Dallas to take on SMU.
Yeah.
And I thought they'd be a powerhouse this year, but maybe they're not.
Yeah. So we got this question that's related to that from one of our Locked On Canes insiders whose name is also Bruce. It's a different Bruce. He goes by Ship Bruce. I think he might be a Navy guy. He says, hey, there's been buzz about some of our upcoming big games, such as Louisville, Pitt, Syracuse, SMU. Would be cool to get an update on key upgrades or injuries that might impact our games for those guys. All right, so let me run through a few of these, Bruce. So we're going to see the Pittsburgh game, which could definitely be a trap game if we're not ready for it. End of the season on the road. Like if we're 11-0 heading into that Pitt game, you've got to be completely zoned in and focused. Pitt just made a quarterback change. They benched Eli Holstein in favor of true freshman Mason Henschel, who played great in their win over BC. But BC is awful.
Right, they're awful.
So I think we'll get a better idea of their new quarterback Henschel because they face Florida State in their next game. So that's going to be a better defensive challenge for them. So we'll get an idea. Syracuse, Bruce, like Syracuse is a team that's on our schedule. They beat us on the road last year. I know Miami's going to want revenge at home. Syracuse has looked, and not in a good way, like a completely different team since their quarterback got hurt. Steve Angeli's out for the year. Ricky Collins, who replaced him, has been awful. He threw 3 interceptions in their last game, and Syracuse doesn't have much of a defense either. At least like their offense was clicking before their quarterback got hurt. So we better win that game comfortably.
Did they beat Clemson in Clemson this year?
Yeah, they did. That was with the other quarterback though. Yeah.
Well, the other quarterback played for a while, then he got hurt. But I guess if Clemson winds up winning 8 or 9 games, Deb will probably still be there. But he was in a lot of hot water, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Now Norvell's in a lot of hot water.
Yeah, he is. But I don't know how much. Like, I think Norvell's got like a $60 million buyout, so I think they're stuck with him for a few. They're stuck with him for a few more years, no matter how they feel about him right now.
Oh.
But yeah, and then another one. SMU on the road is going to be an interesting game. They obviously have talent, and I think they're really well coached out of by Rhett Lashley. But the talent advantage, Bruce, is not close. And something I've noted, like I like their quarterback Kevin Jennings. He was a really dangerous dual threat guy last year. He's not running much this year. I don't know if that's by design or if the offensive line hasn't been very good, but he's got like negative rushing yards this season.
He's hurt.
Yeah, maybe.
He made a lot of great escape plays last year, throwing and running with the ball, but I don't know if he's doing that. Maybe he's hurt. Yeah,
maybe. We're going to get to more questions from the Locked On Canes insiders when we come back. People have injury questions about Miami. And also, I want to get a little bit more into this yesterday, Bruce, about the top transfers, because I brought that up and I got a little sidetracked yesterday. So you guys want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Guys, Game Time is the only ticket app that I use. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. That's why I use Game Time. The app gives the advantage back to the fans. You don't get stuck in these endless queues. You don't get stuck with hidden fees. What you see is what you get on Game Time. And the prices do not jump at checkout. Folks, we got that home game coming up in a week and a half. Friday night, Miami versus Louisville. I'm looking at tickets this morning, starting at $27. Those are the deals you get at Game Time. And probably the prices are going to tumble down even further the closer we get to kickoff between Miami and the Cardinals. But starting right now at just $27 on Game Time. I love the zone deals too. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and most importantly, we've got a deal for you. Use my code, Locked On College. That's all one word, Locked On College, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code Locked On College for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We're also proudly brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home. Whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years, these businesses are what bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives, guys. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Thank you so much for making this Truth Teller Tuesday Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Bruce, is it fair to say that, you know, after Carson Beck, that Jacoke Thomas right now might be the best transfer portal addition for Miami? Obviously, he's not the only really good one. We see what CJ Daniels is doing. Marty Brown has had some big games at running back. Keontae Scott in the defensive backfield has been really good. But Jacoke Thomas, who actually had Miami's highest Pro Football Focus grade this last week against Florida State, this guy has been all over the field making plays all season long.
I think he's very special. And I think you had him on the show, right?
Yes.
And I was very impressed by him. He's a very bright kid. He's really good. He's in the backfield. He's making plays. He had the interception backpedaling into the end zone. So I agree with that. It's hard to say who's 1A, 1B, but he's right up at the top. He's very good. You know, and Blaze playing a little better.
Yes, he is. David Blaze been good at defense. I'm glad you brought him up.
Playing a lot. Justin Scott got in some because Moten got hurt. Yeah, right. CJ's playing out of his mind. I never expected this, did you? I thought he'd be just an average Joe, kind of like Brown last year. He wasn't so great at Oklahoma, but he's really helped this team. He's helped the receivers. It's hard to say anything about Tony other than the fact that maybe the next time he plays, he'll wear a Superman cape because he's that amazing. Dude. He's amazing. Yeah. I knew he was good. I didn't think he'd be like this. I thought he'd be a little skinnier version of Restrepo, but he's got a whole nother gear.
Yeah.
He's incredible. Yep. What an athlete. He played quarterback the last 5 games, which they won. So that came up too yesterday on these YouTube videos about him.
And Carson Beck brought it up.
Yeah.
So, Carson mentioned that if you have a receiver who's played quarterback before, it really helps them kind of understand what a quarterback is looking at when he goes through his progression. So I think that's another one of the reasons why Tony is doing well. And by the way,
together watch film.
Yeah, they do.
He's not watching it by himself. He's watching it with Beck.
Yeah, which is great. And Malachi Tony, like I can't. Bruce, this guy just turned 18 a few weeks ago. Like when I had just turned 18, I was looking for the next party. Like I wasn't focused on anything. Like my first semester at Miami, I ended up having good grades by the time I graduated, but I think I had like a C+ average like my first semester because I was just, overwhelmed by the college experience, right? Where you got Malachi Tony, who he is all business at 18 years old. I mean, this young man is Mario talks about his attention to detail. Shannon Dawson talks about it with the way he's always working on his route running, the way he's always studying film, the way he's so professional with his approach. Like to be able to have this guy, and it's not just talent, Bruce. Like the reason why he's thriving so much as a true freshman, it's not just because he has all these God-given gifts. That's part of it, of course. His quickness, his explosiveness, his burst, but he has worked on his game so much to this point that it takes the combination of hard work and talent for him to go out there and doing what he's doing.
He's mature beyond his years.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps him locked in. There's a maturity factor of this kid that some of the other guys, they won't go the extra mile to learn what they should be learning. And this kid obviously does. It's kind of fun to hear people talk about him. There's hundreds and hundreds of receivers. There's sophomores, juniors, and seniors. He's a true freshman who should still be in high school because he reclassified. And look what he's doing now. Is this going to happen all the time? It's kind of hard for me to believe he's going to have this tremendous drop off with his work ethic. I don't see it.
No, I don't see
Unless
it
they
either.
start double and triple teaming this kid.
Right. And listen, if they do that, I think he'll still make some plays, and that's just going to open things up for his teammates to make even more plays. So you can pick your poison there. We got a question from John from Jupiter, and this was a name that you brought up earlier, Bruce. He wants to know what's the status of Ahmad Moten. I think he returned to the game, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He left. He got banged up on a play, left the game, but he came back. So if he was good to finish the game, you assume he's good for the next game. Not to mention Miami has the extra week. Ahmad Moten's going to be fine heading into the Louisville game.
You know, we didn't talk like some of these unsungs, like Bryce. Again.
Oh, Fitzgerald.
Again. Yeah. He makes another play, and he has the return yardage. He's everywhere, that kid. Our secondary is so night and day from last year. It's kind of hard to believe. What a
Fitzgerald, another true freshman. He's got 3 interceptions in his first 5 collegiate games, which is incredible.
And we don't have Hayden Lowe this year. Could you imagine we would have had him?
I know. Yeah, he's out for the season, injured.
He would have been our first defensive end off the bench. Maybe. Well, I don't know where Blunt plays in or out, or number 12. He plays a lot.
Yeah. By the way, another Locked On Canes insider was asking like why we didn't rotate the defensive ends more at the end of the game. A lot of it, Bruce, was because Florida State wasn't substituting, so the defense can't substitute. Like it was a tactic from Florida State's offense where we were not able to substitute guys. That's why Ruben Bain played, I think, 76 snaps. and Mesidor, same thing. They both played like they were barely off the field. But a lot of it was all those plays Florida State ran in the fourth quarter. Miami couldn't substitute because they were going no huddle.
Right. But sometimes if there's an incomplete pass down the field, you could run it in. But he was making a lot of good plays. You have to give Castellano credit. He didn't quit. They didn't quit. And that's one of the things that the Florida State fans are hanging their hat on. They didn't quit. Right. But on the flip side of that, you're correct. There's a lot of people complaining about Norvell. A lot. A lot of it has to do with lack of his ability to have him and his own staff up all hours of the day and night recruiting. And now they're seeing the difference. And they're also ripping him for the constant going to the portal. That's a house of cards. Yeah. It's just like the cards, they'll collapse. And that's what happens. So you could be 11-1 and you could be 2-10 the following, which is what happened. You have to have a solid foundation. Mario has the solid foundation. He adds pieces. I don't know. You would probably know. Maybe we should do this for a different day. Of all those guys that are in the secondary, who comes back next year? Or is it just a bunch of seniors and we lose almost all of them? I don't know.
Miami?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Lucas comes back. I know that.
Yeah, we're going to lose. I think Jacoke Thomas, I think, is a senior. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Keontae Scott, which obviously are 2 really good players, but Bryce Fitzgerald's a true freshman. He's going to be back. Dylan Day is I think he's a sophomore or redshirt freshman. I think he's a sophomore because I think he burned his red shirt on special teams last year, but he'll be back regardless next year. Obviously, OJ Frederic and Xavier Lucas are both sophomores. They'll have to be true sophomores. They'll have to be back.
What about Poyser? What is he?
I want to say he has more time as well. Let me see if I can look
one more year.
I think he has time. Let me double check that. We'll look at his Miami bio. It'll say what year he is. He's a redshirt sophomore. So assuming I don't think he's going to leave early for the NFL this year. So he'll be back. So we're going to get most of our secondary back from next year. For next year. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a lull. We have to admit it. We've been excited for weeks, even though we had the week off after the Gators.
Yeah.
And now we can't get complacent. There's not a lot to talk about when your team is winning. When you're losing, these shows are always great, but it's not great for us.
Maybe you feel that way.
But I'm just saying there's less to talk about because we're happy. Yeah, what do we pick? Yeah. What do we pick on? And we pick on the fourth quarter, which was terrible.
Yeah.
Do I trust now, as opposed to the last 3 or 4 years with Mario, they're going to address it? You better believe it. That's probably one of the bigger differences. I now have faith in the staff. I was always complaining about the staff, and I was probably right. But this year and the defense and the way they're playing defense, that's the way you play defense. That's the way we've played defense, and that's what's won for us in the past, the defense. Our offense could score 30 or score 20. We should not be involved in any of these close games. No. But we're 5-0. We are getting better. But every time you see Mario in a press conference, there's a lot of work to be done, and he's not wrong.
Nope.
If we want to beat Ohio State, Oregon, and some of these other teams, we need to be oiled on both sides of the ball and ready to play. And, fortunately, again, what have we been behind? 3-0. That's the only time we've been behind the whole season. And then you take care of business. But you got to like what you see. You can't complain about Mario. We could just pick a few little areas that we wish. You're picking at it. Yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. Just win, baby.
I would rather nitpick than do the. You said sometimes the show. I know what you're trying to say when you said, "Hey, more fun after losses." But no, I'd much rather be nitpicking after wins and praising after wins than.
But you've done radio. I've done radio shows. I remember when the Dolphins used to lose and people would be screaming and yelling, and
which is still going on. Some things never change. This was like when you were 30 years ago you were doing radio, and it's the same Dolphins.
No, I stopped in 2012, just before my son passed away.
So not that. Okay, all right.
Radio, but then I was on doing shows with Gary, and now I'm doing this with you. So, but it was ugly. It was ugly.
Hasn't changed with the Miami Dolphins, but it's always a good time when we got the truth teller with us. So, round of applause for those listening to Bruce Warner. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your pods. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.